record and say welcome to everyone for the afternoon session. And it looks like it's going to be small, but good, John. So,
yes,
Brendan's joined us twice.
you've popped in on the same one. So it is this afternoon's link.
Yeah.
And you're on mute, Brendan.
Anyway, facilitator call 22. We've been running the same session this morning, so we're going to basically run through the same session this afternoon. And thank you again to John Stanchel for thinking this through and organising it, and being willing to push on and get us discussing this, John. So I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Denise. So I think before I start, I'll say I don't think we'll need to go into breakout rooms of this session.
I think we should be good.
All right, now, Nancy, do you know everybody here? Oops, just probably leave your mics off mute, I think, unless there's a lot of noise in the background.
Right, true.
Yes.
I haven't met Ben and Brendan in person, but
Okay, so Ben, you'd like to give yourself a brief intro, please?
Yep, so we've talked many times on the phone, Nancy and I and Meg as well, so but yeah, we haven't met in person, but you guys know what I do, that I'm a customer support along with Dusty for the Action Network and RMPP as well. So yeah, this morning's session was really good, and yeah, interesting to see different people's different perspectives on what are going to be the challenges going forward, and also what the success of this approach looks like post RMPP and also post funding, I guess. So it was really interesting conversation this morning. So hopefully we'll be able to build on that, even with a few less numbers.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Brendan?
Yeah, hi, I'm Brendan Patchett. I'm project manager. Through these recurring Zoom meetings, I've come across you both at different times, but it's just reiterating what Ben said. Really, we had a good discussion this morning, and really looking forward to what others might have to say.
All right, thank you. And I think I've bumped into you both too at times on Zoom meetings, but quick refresher, but I'm based in Palmerston North. I've had 8 RMPP groups and another 4 other groups that I run, and yeah, and do some consulting as well. So this whole area fascinates me, and I'm just keen to try and keep it going, and appreciate the support we've had to date. So yeah, so Denise, quick introduction.
So hi everyone, I'm Denise Busell, based in Christchurch. Helping work with Brendan and Ben to support you guys and help keep things ticking along with action groups.
Thank you. Right, Nancy.
So I'm the facilitator for the Mangawera Valley Action Network Group, and so we started in March, so relatively new, just still bedding in actually, as you're probably aware. It's been really interesting actually. I think the communal engagement, they're quite a close community anyway in the valley, but this has actually brought in the farming as opposed to the social side of it, so it's been really good in that side of it. Cool. And also, I'm also on the committee of the Friends of Bullock Creek, which is an urban freshwater situation. So it's actually, from my point of view, it's really good having this experience here too. So
yeah.
Cool, thank you. And Meg.
Yeah, hi, I'm farm consultant based out of South Canterbury. I'm trying to get 2 groups off the ground at the moment. One's one of the ones down at Hawea Flat, and also there's a group of dairy farmers with beef runoffs that are looking at how they can integrate dairy beef into their system, so working on that. And then I also do a number of dairy groups that aren't RMPP, but what I learn here is really applicable there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I mean, it's one of the good things in this job is you do a number of different things. One informs the other, and vice versa, and so you can use information and skills. Absolutely. That's cool. All right, thanks for that. So what we're going to do for a start, just a quick refresher. I actually didn't mean to ask you what you're hoping to get out of this meeting. Actually, I might just quickly go back to Nancy and Meg. Nancy, what were you hoping to get out of the meeting today?
Really, actually, like the March is going to come around quite quickly, and I'm just wondering what sort of tools to put in place, or what sort of parameters to actually keep the ball rolling in the future. I mean, I think there's momentum enough there that they want to keep that environmental support going, but it's just, yeah, being
Cool.
outside the RMPP is going to be an interesting exercise.
Thank you. Yep, and Meg?
Yeah, I guess I'm very much the same in that, because we're such latecomers to the RMPP model, it's how do we get that momentum going that we can keep it going afterwards.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. All right, so hopefully we might end up with a few ideas, and if they don't pop out of this meeting, we'll look at our cheat sheets from this morning's meeting. So, right, so for a start, just want to do a quick refresher, and from what you know of RMPP action groups so far, and perhaps, well, I'm not sure you know a lot of outside of your own groups, but perhaps involvement with these meetings. What do you think? What do you think's been achieved at a big picture level? What do you think they've helped do for New Zealand sheep and cattle agriculture? I guess especially the industry. So, yeah, Meg, some thoughts on that?
Oh, ask the big questions front up. No, I think it's from, I've been involved in a couple of groups that have gone in a subject matter expert as well in that sort of space. And I think it's been really good about getting engagement with these people at a different level. It's not just a beer at the pub, it's a real deeper understanding and trust between farmers. I think just some of these people that I've dealt with, and even friends that have been involved in the process, it's around actually looking at their business with a different eye, and probably applying a bit more of a analytical critique to it, I guess, which has been pretty cool to see.
Cool, thank you. And Nancy?
Actually, I think it's from the overall New Zealand point of view. I think when was RMPP established? About 7 years ago or something like that, and the intention was to actually up the level of technology and knowledge in the sector, wasn't it? And I think I just haven't been through the process to this date to here now. I think it does help that actually, because there's a latent sort of curiosity in farmers, and they're not sure which way to go to actually fulfill that curiosity. And I think this is actually, as Meg was saying, the sort of experts and things like that do provide that ability.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so certainly giving people an opportunity to be engaged that perhaps have not otherwise been engaged, just worked away on the farm on their own more or less. And I'm not going to get into a wild raging discussion about this, but I don't believe that pub talk is extension. I think that's just pub talk. But this gives people a chance to learn at a different level through a little bit more organised means and some resources to go with it. So getting people that weren't previously engaged, and I've experienced that myself, and it's been really rewarding seeing how people have grown. And I think, one of the things, we don't use it very much in agriculture, but building capability, human capability, I think is really at a global level what this is about. Exactly what people do as individual, but and I see building capability definitely leads to people making better decisions and being better off in the long run. So, okay, all right. Ben, any quick pointers you want to just mention to add to that?
Yeah, I guess it's just sort of following up on what you're saying, and I guess the theme, well, one of the larger themes from this morning's catch up was just that connection, getting those farmers that have previously been or historically been quite isolated, and building those connections, getting them into a group environment where they can freely express what and go into detail into their businesses and how they're performing and things, and just that connection with the with rural professionals and the relevant expertise that they wouldn't wouldn't elsewise have gotten the chance to make those connections. So that's probably the biggest points from me.
Cool, thank you. Brendan, anything that we've missed so far on your list?
Look, one of the themes that came through, it happened to be in the breakout room that I was in at the time, was a general feeling that there's an enthusiasm for farming coming back for some farmers that are involved in the group. So it's sort of reinvigorated, whether that's the topic they're focusing on or whether it's just been connected with other farmers facing the same sort of challenges, and so they gain confidence and a bit of belief from that they're on the right track. So I think that's pretty universal as well. We touched on the stimulating more ideas that they can take back into their businesses. We're seeing that pretty widespread as well. And it's also created that opportunity, maybe not so much in your environmentally focused groups at this point, but a lot of the groups, it's a raise more awareness and understanding of the financial literacy, I guess, with the introduction of the KPIs and things like that. So that's been really positive. I think from my perspective, holistically, I think there's just a greater awareness now and understanding of actually what a structured small group, well facilitated supportive environment actually can do for farmers to help them create that support to progress ideas and the confidence to move forward and make change.
Cool, thank you. And Denise, any points we've missed?
No, I think you've covered it all, because yeah, that's really good. Covering human capability, connections, and actually making changes. We've got a fair bit of evidence that people are making changes on farm, and that's beneficial. So it's good. I'm just capturing stuff into the chat box so that we've got a bit of a some notes that I can circulate to John initially, and then to everyone that's been involved.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, great. So yeah, just quick follow up on a couple of those points here. The whole enthusiasm thing and motivation, I think, has been pretty positive. And if people are in a sort of safe environment and chatting away, and that helps actually create ideas. It creates new ideas and innovations and leads people to change, as well as just hearing people doing other things. I mean, one thing that was very distinctive for me at the end of the drought, some of the people in the group were talking about using nitrogen, and others who hadn't used it before actually ended up giving it a go and were very pleased with it. So, very clear example of giving each other confidence to do something. Sorry, Ben, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say something. Just sort of came to mind, like as I've been talking to farmers over like the sort of 7 months I've been involved, is you get, I guess, younger farmers are, I guess, more, I guess, could be seen as to be more innovative, and they're always looking for the next thing, and quite excited about it. But some of the the older farmers, I guess, are the ones that are calling me up and really excited about, should I've been doing the same thing for the last 30 years, and getting involved in these groups, especially the diverse ones, the ones that have got some varying ages. It's just just reinvigorates their passion, I guess, for farming, and because they probably could have gotten to a bit of a slump, I guess, just doing the same old thing. So yeah, it's really rewarding being able to talk to them about that, which is pretty cool.
Cool, thank you. One thing through all of this that I haven't actually heard mentioned really, but just something there made me think about it, and that was at present we're in a massive generation changeover. I've sort of been around long enough that I've worked with the parents of when I'm working with the next generation, and in some situations I've been working with 3 generations. So, but the sheer number of the next generation coming into the family farms at present is huge, and it's quite positive because it provides, from our point of view, provides a new audience, and for people who love helping others learn, which I do, it's just so rewarding. So it's been great. All right, thank you for that. So it's sort of a bit of a picture where we've got to. I think it's certainly been a huge benefit to the industry. I mean, there's been the analysis by Scarletti done so far, and some pretty impressive numbers coming through on that, and we really hardly even finished it. So yeah, so it's still positive stuff that can happen, really. Okay, so thanks for that. All right, the next thing I'm going to ask you is, what do you think the risks are going forward of not being able to maintain the momentum? So I'm sort of going to look at this on the positive side, sorry, the negative side, to try and get some thoughts stirred up. So, and then we'll come back to the positive side of that. So, Nancy, what do you think the risks are of not being able to maintain the momentum?
Possibly not having specific projects in mind. Like in the past, we've done the environmental plans and the water testing and coming into carbon and things. So there's been specific areas of interest. And it may be an issue that we don't have that focus in the future, you know, so like maintenance of the environmental plan or upgrading, or because what are the regional plans? Are they in Otago? I don't know that it's a requirement yet. So there's going to be no sort of absolute pressure on them, but they may, I mean, I get the feeling that they've done it and they're going to park it until it's absolutely necessary. So I'm wondering, how do you sort of keep it in their face, so to speak?
So I think the government sorted that for you with their freshwater regulations. There will be environmental farm plans that will be mandatory. So, and they haven't defined what's in there yet. So there'll be a little bit more work to do on that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Meg.
Oh, I guess it's just, you know, with any of these groups is, you know, if you lose momentum and we potentially lose focus, then we end up back where we started, or, you know, a bit more of a scattergun approach of people doing different bits and pieces here, whereas, you know, you sort of get a bit of a cohesive action when you've got a few different people.
Okay. So there's a risk that the group will sort of just drift apart because there's nothing to hold them together.
Or
Okay.
you know, if they can't necessarily see the immediate value, whether they'll self-fund or, you know, where we end up there.
Okay. All right. So here, Brendan, any thoughts you'd like to add to that?
Yep. Got a bit of time, have we? I guess to both your points really, but Nancy's more specifically around the focus, and I can understand that, and that's definitely if we look at keeping groups going around particular focuses that are immediate, or versus is being in an environment that creates support around your business to bounce where you're at in your business, no matter where we are in any particular point in time, i.e. we don't just do a plan for the sake of doing a plan, we use a plan to help drive our business, and you create the environment where it is focused around exploring what's that next opportunity, what did I learn, what helped grow my business, what failed, what has helped someone else grow their business, or what's failed for them, and then you create this whole continuous improvement approach. For me, that's I know John's got a view around extension and with the definition of it, but for me, there's push extension and then there's pull-based extension. So how do you create that environment where pull-based is based around continuous improvement, and businesses that are measuring and monitoring and exploring, identifying opportunities will pull relevant knowledge or expertise where it's required. So I believe that's the opportunity. I believe it's about creating that value and around that environment that it just makes sense for a farmer to continue to be part of it and potentially be contributing towards the facilitation of that, which through our program and the evaluation has come out very strongly as a key part of that. So that's my thoughts around that side of things.
Cool. Thanks, Brendan. Denise.
Yeah, I think the biggest risk is for the rural professionals that, you know, that they don't have enough confidence maybe to keep going in this direction. And then there's no support. So I think that's a big risk going forward. But in terms of farming and farmers involved, you've covered it really, losing momentum, losing focus, yeah, without some structures or processes or ideas from facilitators.
All right, thank you. Ben.
Yeah, I'd agree with all the points that have been raised so far, but I guess for me and some of the ones that came up this morning was just that risk of, you know, post RMPP of you know, the framework we've set up and people have got right involved in and seen some good responses out of is that small group approach. small group well facilitated. And it's sort of the danger of once this program finishes up that it's going to slip back to that historical larger, discussion group, which by all means there's still a place for discussion groups. But it's just sort of, how can we maintain the approach that's been proven to, create action, drive profitability and sustainability. And that just comes down to, facilitators and rural professionals, just making sure that, farmers can see the value or look back and reflect on the value that they've got out of these groups. And that's going to be, the driving factor. And it comes back to Teresa's point is with rural professional trainings and these communities practice like we're doing now, that's what's going to drive, keeping the small group approach going. So that's the major thing that, the biggest risk I see.
So what you're saying is the monitoring side is becoming really important too at this stage then, the sort of, this is what we've achieved.
Yeah, and more so I guess we've always said that, groups should be sort of reflecting, each quarterly, whether it's quarterly or I'm not sure, Denise will know how often you're meant to do it. But always reflecting on where you've come, what goals have you completed. And that's the idea of those, I guess, those action plans is, laying down some goals and objectives and then reviewing them at the end of the year. So you're always looking back, what have you completed, and then what can you do going forward? And that's, a lot of the groups that are finishing up with their funding, they're doing a lot more of that now. It's like reflecting back, looking at their activities, looking at some of the days that they've run and saying, what value did we get out of this, or did we need to do this, or and then they can sort of, the people will realise whether there's value in it or not. If they don't see value in it, then there's no point in them carrying on anyway. But
Cool. Thanks, Ben. Okay, so I'll just throw a few things in there. It's partly response, partly summing up, and a new idea that's just hit me. So certainly I'm aware that some groups were set up specifically for a particular topic, around a particular topic, and I guess it was something said earlier this morning that almost if it comes to an end, then it's been successful in terms of they've probably achieved what they wanted to achieve. So that aside, so I'll tell you what's just suddenly hit me out of this, and I haven't heard anyone mention this before, but I think we've actually helped develop a new culture of learning. That people now, there's many more people aware of the value of learning in small groups. And so, well, that in particular has been recognised. I think to actually change a culture as such is probably a way bigger step. And I think we're sort of well down the track to doing that. So going back to the single topic focus, and I guess coming from a farm systems background and having run groups for 20 odd years plus, plus the ones back in the math days, I see them not so much around a single topic, but more as ongoing continuous improvement. And that's the groups that I've been running for 20 years, that's, I don't think anyone's looking for a silver bullet, but they just want to stay in touch. They want to catch up with their mates. They're happy to share and learn, but we're just always analysing things. Like now that this is the price for lamb and this is the price for beef, what does that make any difference to the way we run our business? Or now that we've got these pressures from fresh water coming on us, what are we going to do? How can we do things differently? I mean, I've already done analysis for farmers. Can we operate without a crop? So yes, we could put on enough nitrogen to make up for the dry matter, but we can't get the feet off the paddock. So there's some things that we've really got to think about and analyse, and there's always something that comes along. In the last, even just the last 20 years, there's been massive changes happening. So one of my concerns, one of the risks for me is that there's not enough facilitators around to facilitate groups of people who want to, carry on in this sort of form of learning. And I guess that's partly to do with skill sets. So while some people have done an excellent job facilitating, and it's been great when there's been speakers to come in, the model going forward, I don't think I can't find a model that will where people will pay enough money to pay for speakers as well as the facilitators. So there might be some one-off speakers come in. There's certainly a lot of people out there, there's company reps who will do it for nothing, and I think we shouldn't ignore them. There's one little comment that stuck in my head from, sorry, the name escaped me, in Australia, the couple of us, John and, can you help me, Denise? Who was the woman who was involved? John?
Ruth.
Ruth Nettle,
Thank
John,
you.
yeah,
Thank you.
John James and Ruth Nettle, yeah.
And there was a bit of an article they wrote somewhere and said, when they were looking at the future of extension and you know, damn, I've lost my train of thought now. They, I might have to skip that and come back to it. It's gone.
All good.
All right. All right. So I'll just carry on.
Something about, yeah, the
Oh, so the lack of facilitators.
yes,
They
facilitators,
have to be
yeah.
the people that knew the stuff as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the point's gone, but I'll come back. So I mean, yeah, to me, is one of the things is if some people have some facilitators have some certain skill sets, which they obviously have to get to where they are, you know, is there something that we can do to help those people go another step and sort of add more value to groups? So it wasn't quite a point that I brought up this morning, but you know, so there could be some specific training for some facilitators who feel like that they could offer something, but just yeah, and it'll come down to individuals, I guess, and the skill set they've already got and what perhaps people are asking of them. So from the groups.
John, do you mind if I just sort of have the opportunity just to expand on that a little bit, perhaps? I think what we've seen during the time in RMPP Action Network is, you know, we wondered where the next group was coming from. We wondered where the next facilitator was coming from. Do we have enough facilitators to meet the demand? And we can get a bit concerned about that, but out the other end of it, we're still getting new groups knocking on the door wanting to join up with 6 months to go. We're getting new facilitators, people that haven't facilitated groups wanting to be a part of it and facilitate. And I think it's you talk about the culture, and I think we've just started the momentum building around changing a culture and a bit of a movement, I guess. And so, you know, we've trained over 600 rural professionals in the core facilitation technique, and I'm not saying they're all going to become facilitators, but some of those are coming back round a year, 2 years later, and actually as the value's being demonstrated by other groups are seeing, oh, there's something here, and they're probably having conversations with those other facilitators, and the other farmers are having conversations, so it's creating that whole demand. And that's what I was referring to earlier. I think there's more awareness of this, what this small group can achieve and the support that it creates. And I think, as a point I made this morning, it's a wee bit like believing in the systems, just trusting our processes and actually ensuring we retain the key principles, the core principles that have been successful through Action Network, and keeping those alive and feed and watering. And I concur wholeheartedly with the notion of, you know, focusing on supporting rural professionals in this sort of manner, and whether it's more training and whether it's around focus topics around how do you create value, and exploring those deeper so that people get to share their experiences and allow them as individuals to build that confidence and build connections. So, yeah, I think we've started a good thing here. It's about how do we keep it alive, and these conversations are a great start.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right. So we've sort of, spent a little bit of time on that. So I guess we'll come back to the main question now, and that is, what's your vision for the future beyond funding of I guess, of the action groups we're talking about? So we'll start off with Meg and see what thoughts you've got around this, and then we'll all chip in again, and then Nancy.
Cool. I guess, yeah, mine are probably a little bit challenging in that they're only really just starting now. I think the hardware group, there's potential for some other funding outside of RMPP, so not self-funded, but other industry or other governmental funding, which will probably help get through that pinch point. I think, yeah, going forward with the group we're in the process of trying to establish of the dairy farmers, I think the self-funding model will probably fit quite well for them. And I guess kind of coming back to your point of the facilitator needing to sort of know the subject as well and be upskilled in that side, I guess that one fits quite well with me in that, you know, primarily I'm a dairy and beef consultant, so I can be the facilitator, and I can put the other hat on and be the subject matter expert and help them with the analysis too. So from a cost point of view, we're not going to be forever bringing in expensive subject matter experts, whereas in the environmental space, I'm happy to be the facilitator, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to do their carbon calculations, and I'm not going to be the one that's going to sign off farm environment plans. So it's a different model, I guess.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Actually, I did put a handbrake on the group this morning, and I said we've got to have the vision of the future without any funding. So just to sort of challenge your thinking, you know, so let's just assume there's not going to be any funding available. How are we going to make it work? So just to make it a little bit more challenging for you, Nancy, any thoughts?
Thank you. Actually, no, it's a good point, because that's probably reality, isn't it? So with the water testing and stuff like that, you know, I could have been facilitating that, but I've actually delegated it to one of the farmers, and I think they actually are quite happy to get on board and do the thing. So it's not, I mean, I could do it, but it's not my role as a facilitator to actually proactively do those sort of things. But then with my background, you know, in terms of there's questions that come up about recycling, plastic wrap, etc., like that, and they're quite passionate about finding alternatives, or actually seeing if there's possibility of, you know, greater groups making it more efficient. So, and that would be within my skill set. So I think as a person, I think I've got the skill set to actually support in that area, but I think I have to just having that bond, is that the right word, being able to keep it going just without the funding is going to be the issue. But then I think if they're passionate about it or see the benefit of it, I think it could happen. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. So, Ben, any thoughts that you'd like to add in there?
All right. Can you just skip me? I was just thinking about something else.
Okay, that's fine.
Brendan will fill
Okay.
in my end of my sentence for me.
That's right. We'll come to Denise.
Yeah, I guess success for me with beyond the RMPP funding is really to see that facilitators keep working together and helping each other out and supporting each other. And that then corresponds with groups really still working and running. Not all of them will continue, because as John, you've pointed out, some of them have been very single issue focused. And so that's fine, you know, but they've still had the experience of being in that small group learning environment. And so my hope is that they would then join another group or form a different group. So yeah, I think the more that facilitators can support each other, the more they'll connect. And then that's good, has flow-on effects for the group as well, because it might be then that, Meg, you could help out with a particular issue with Nancy's group, and Nancy could do the same back for your group. And it could be, you know, that kind of working together process, which would be pretty awesome. Yeah.
The other thing, I guess what else makes me thought about, yeah, while you've been talking, was around that in my outside of RMPP part of my business, I guess it's actually about then creating that thought process that actually I need to be creating small groups and actually, you know, using that model, because I know it works. I know how to make it work. So how do I then, you know, get these farmers that are used to me turning up and giving them a couple of hours every month and leaving again, you know, changing the model for them. So I guess that's sort of how we can approach that as well and continue that small group learning.
Yep, cool. That's good. All right, thank you. Right, Brendan, like to add something in?
Yeah, look, for me, I'll try and make it concise. I think for me, the success is about the approach continuing, still being applied, the small group approach, and but it's not the silver bullet, but it's where is it appropriately applied and where can it add value and complement all the other type of activity that goes on in the extension landscape. And for that to happen well, I believe that we need to have a really supportive environment around rural professionals in that facilitation capability development that's been touched on, so that those facilitation skills are continuing to grow and get better and better and better, and people are more confident, and therefore better able to create those environments which actually do add value for the farmers, and to able to visit that with the farmers to actually demonstrate or allow them to come to the realization of the value that's been created. And therefore it's just part of being a farmer, as I'm part of a small group, because that's really adding value to my business.
Cool, thank you. Ben.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess success to me would be the continuation, as everyone said, the continuation of the small group learning approach, and having real alignment in our sector, with rural professionals and different, all subject matter experts and industry bodies like Beef and Lamb, MPI, Dairy NZ, all sort of working collaboratively. And yeah, so just getting that alignment, and farmers that have been involved in Action Network for a year or two, that they've seen the value of this small group. They've seen action on farm, and I think they've liked being innovative and always progressing themselves. So they'll be the easier ones to not convince, because you'd like to hope they don't really need convincing if they've had the value. But they'll probably be slightly easier to get that continuation. But then saying again, like the guys in Waiwanaka and the groups around there have had a really good start as well. So, I guess success is just continuing that on, I guess.
Cool, thank you. Nancy, was there something you wanted to add, or you?
Actually, yeah, I was thinking, just thinking about it, and it's the people that we are connecting with, have connected with, which are being supportive without being how to put it, supporting us without and fitting in with us without actually being part of the contract, so to speak. So that's actually happening. So I think what you're saying, Ben, is that all those professionals out there, if we can keep that engagement going or conversation going, it's really important.
So I think we sort of did end up this morning, it might have been afterwards, was it? In the after pretty debriefing, a brief discussion about, it probably is possible to maintain RP connections through these Zoom meetings beyond funding. I mean, if people are able to put an hour of their time in now once a month or every couple of months just to keep in touch, could be through something like NZIPIM or something like that. I'd certainly be keen to kick that off and be part of the initial setup of that. But so there's no reason why we can't keep on doing that. So I'm just going to go back a step because my brain did kick back into gear. So the comment was in Australia that there was a feeling that in agricultural extension, the space was crowded by so many people, including reps from different companies, chemical reps, fertilizer reps, and agronomists and so on. And I just felt, well, on one hand, I knew that I probably didn't use them as much as I should. I felt there was looking at it from the wrong angle. I felt there was looking at it from the glass is half empty rather than half full. And since that time, I am definitely using those people a lot more. They are a resource that should be used, to the extent that a couple of my groups who do a lot of finishing, so cropping is part of what they do. When we go to so this is now post-funding, so this is self-funded. When we go to each member's place, when they host a meeting, they bring in their agronomist. So there's no sort of You know, there's no winding up between whose agronomist you use or not. We've all agreed that we will have the host agronomist, and we will all learn something different as we go around, because these people also look at things differently. So, you know, and you could do the same thing with fertilizer reps and chemical reps, and people from the regional councils don't charge. So there's actually a lot of people out there. There's a huge resource that can be utilised, and to sort of see it as somebody crowding our space, I think is just not very helpful. Does that make sense? Okay. So,
John, just on that, I wonder though, I think the message there was that there's actually a lot of players, there's a lot of people, and I think this is one of the challenges that for farmers have had over the years, is they have every second car driving up their driveway trying to sell them something or give them advice, and that becomes overwhelming. And I think that's one of the challenges. I think one of the key messages was there as well. And I'd also say, in that, as you're alluding to, is utilising, you know, that neutral, coming from a neutral perspective around information or advice, or around a particular technology or whatever it is there's a really strong role there for facilitators to be able to manage that individual, that expert, or the situation. And I think that's one of the reasons why this is great, to have these sorts of forums to help people work through those experiences. And how can you keep an expert, no matter what their alignment or allegiance is, or whatever they're trying to sell, to keep that neutral in around the topic, as opposed to the product they probably at the end of the day are wanting to push onto farmers.
So sometimes if it's something that you can work out a cost benefit for, then, like I've had quite recently, you know, the value of cropping, winter cropping, summer cropping, if there's some numbers around it, then, you know, I can provide the framework and the methods for working through that. And so we can have quite an open discussion, and it's reasonably clear outcome. And those relativities do change from time to time, depending on product prices and input costs. So, you know, it's not a do it once and forget about it. And there's some other things that are not quite so easy, you know, like which fertilizer to use, I guess, is a bit more difficult. But if you end up either with a variety of experts who look at it from different angles, and then you get a chance to talk about it, work through the issues, yeah, usually you do provide that sort of neutral perspective to try and work through some of those complicated issues. And I think people do appreciate that.
So what you're saying is that facilitator role is sort of like filtering?
Well, no, not so much filtering. You're actually bringing people in. So you're not keeping people out. You're bringing them in, listen to them, but then there's a chance of working through the information and, you know, looking at it from different perspectives and trying to, I guess, yeah.
I suppose what I'm thinking is that it's you're not filtering, but like actually just making sure they get the more relevant information.
Yeah, Nancy, from my perspective, I feel you're right. That is sort of on the right track in terms of what I see the value of facilitation, and that value is a key part, because I think it creates value for the farmers. Being the facilitator is about, as you alluded to right at the beginning, you know, you're going through those early stages of forming and establishing the group, but over time you get to know the needs of those individuals within those groups. And then the needs of the group collectively. So when someone comes in, you're able to manage that with the expert to make sure the questioning goes around the areas they're interested in and what's important to them. So I think there is a strong role for that.
Yeah, which is kind of a filtering, but not really a filtering in the sense of excluding things. Like you're saying, John, it's important to bring all those voices to the table, but then analyze and weigh things up well. And the facilitator can actually draw on people's experience, different experience, to help do that.
Yeah, so I think it's the facilitator's role to create the conversation, to work through the issues here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here we go. So yeah, so the vision, I guess, is pretty straightforward. We want to see groups continue. We want to see facilitators supported so they can continue and feel confident to continue. And so the thing is now, what do we need to do to help progress that. So we might have covered some of these things already, so we can just do a quick refresher of things that have points that have been covered, or have you got some ideas? So Nancy, any thoughts about how we do this, like keep everything going along?
Yeah, actually, Denise had a really good point, is keeping facilitators talking, or sharing knowledge or whatever. And that's a really good point. And taking it a step further, it would be great to have sort of mentors up, that you could go and contact and say, look, I'm having issues here, or how do you advance this area, or that sort of thing. So yeah, I think there's potential there actually.
Okay, cool, thank you. Meg?
Yeah, I mean, all those points are relevant. I think, for me, I'd be quite keen. We spend a lot of time talking about, I guess, the how of all these different, the theories, I guess, but actually, a couple of minutes in a breakout room meetings, a lot of these RPs, but actually I've got no idea what they do. I've got no idea. I know where they live and I know what the weather's like where they live, but I don't know what their group's doing. I don't know what their specialist area is, and I don't know what value I can add to them and they can add to me, I guess. And I don't know who's down the road that I can meet for a coffee on Tuesday.
Yep, all of that. So we haven't quite gone to that extent, have we, Denise or Brendan? Not that we couldn't. It's but one of the frustrating things for people that are in business like myself is that time at these things is a cost, and like a coffee's okay, a 1 hour Zoom meeting's okay. Traveling to a conference for a couple of days is not so much. So really keeping it short and sharp and effective, but yeah, building connections. And I don't know how we're going to go from here, but perhaps there might be a point to note, following again from our this morning's discussion, is you could go onto the website. I think there's a list of facilitators there. But we probably need to have that a little bit more organised now going forward. That needs to be accessible to people who want to be part of it, part of an ongoing community of facilitators. Yeah. So Ben, you were wanting to say something?
Yeah, well, I was just sort of backing up on what Nancy said, is that communities of practice doing what we're doing now, but as Meg saying, like, this is great to touch in and hear what people are doing, but you can't really get involved and get really in depth with it, I guess, is what you're trying to say. But yeah, I guess in the past, and this is before my time, but there was action hubs, wasn't there, in person, and they were sort of afternoon sessions, were they, Denise? So
yeah, morning or an afternoon. Yep.
Half day. Yep.
Half day.
I wonder what the possibilities of that sort of thing going forward, and what and who would drive that, or what entities. Is that beef and lamb, or is that?
Yeah.
Is it not? Yeah. Or was it supposed to be self-driven?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's up to us to self-drive it if we want to. So we talk about farmers being self-driven. I mean, we can be self-driven as well. We probably need to be. I mean, so in the early days, I attended one of those in Palmerston and one in Wanganui, and they had good support. It's a little bit of a concern, So today, what have we had? 2 people at this one and perhaps half a dozen earlier on. So we do need a bit more commitment from people to put an hour every now and again into it, at least. So yeah, but anything's possible. I've been earlier on, in recent past years, refired up the local branch of NZIPIM. I mean, this is sort of part of that or an extension of it, or can all be part of one and the same. We could do it if we wanted to. Yeah, there's another thought that's escaped me that I had, but all right. So yeah, anyone else? So any other ideas about that we've perhaps, Denise, Brendan, Ben, that we've discussed this morning that hasn't popped out yet?
No, I think the points have been covered, and I agree with you, Nancy, around how do you take it to where you've got more mentoring type support or a bit of go-to, and I agree with you, John, as well. It's that self-fulfilling aspect, but then it's carrot stick sort of stuff as well, and push pull. There needs to be some cohesion and connection that's occurring from across the sector as well to help stimulate and drive it as well. So I think there's plenty of opportunity there, and I think that that's what we need to, having this sort of community is a really great start. And it's like, as I said to the group earlier, if we're getting value for this, and we've talked about the value for farmers, to Lisa's point, well, we're getting value here as rural professionals. How do we talk to others about that? Be vocal around the value we get from these sort of sessions and help encourage others to be part of it. I think is really important. So it's not lost from an Action Network perspective. We're thinking beyond the end of the program and how do we keep the momentum going, and we're trying our hardest to share our thoughts and open people's minds to the possibilities, because it'll be awesome to have a connected rural professional network.
It's just a shame our model, the funding, the financial model doesn't really support co-facilitation, because if you could do that, it opens up a huge number of opportunities. I've been pretty privileged over the last 18 months to have a young guy from the firm as part of his training, and as and a legitimate input into some of the groups, be with me on quite a few group days. I think he's been with me about 30 days overall in 18 months, and he's very knowledgeable and capable himself. And so to share facilitation is one part of it, but to be driving away at the end of the day and bouncing ideas off each other about how that worked, and he notices the interaction between people that I don't notice. And, I've just learned so much just from the fact that he's been sitting there watching. And in terms of helping each other learn, being a mentor, if we could somehow find funding to support, attending meetings with each other, that would be huge. I think everyone would get a lot out of that. But the funding model at present, and the farmer pays, I don't think they'll be prepared to pay for our ongoing training. So that's just a final thought. All right, anything else before we wrap up?
The only other thing, John, we covered this morning was just helping groups reflect and reviewing what they've done. What does success look like for them? So regularly checking in with the group, and then putting a plan in place for the group as well. And I thought that was quite good. Some of that stuff that we covered.
So I think the phrase that was used, and I think it's quite useful at the end of the funding, is to reset. And I've certainly done that with some of the groups, not quite all of them yet, but because most of the speakers or experts were on technical stuff, and we did touch base on some KPI sessions and financial stuff, but we didn't really follow it up. So sort of taking a new focus on building business plans and setting goals, and that's been quite well received. So it's sort of a little bit different focus to what we've had, just give it a bit of a fresh and a reset. But alongside that, also asking them what they want out of it as well. So, so alrighty. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. So I think we'll end up with a set of notes that'll come out of this moving forward. Not sure, we haven't got any more meetings at all, Denise, set?
We haven't got any set, but Brendan and I are talking, and we're talking with John Ladley, who's our manager, to see what Beef and Lamb would like to do in this space, because obviously we sit within Beef and Lamb now, and so we're wanting to make sure that we support whatever they want to see happening. So we'll be working that through. Okay. But anything that we can do to support, hence like you, John, ringing and saying, hey, I'm keen to get some discussion around. I'm like, yes, right behind you. Let's do it. So
thank you.
Any ideas? Yeah.
That's great. So Nancy, gain anything from this hour? Any value from this hour we just had?
Oh, totally, actually. That's sort of just reaffirmed where I'm at, what I'm sort of thinking about going forward. Just as a matter of interest, what's the history of facilitation in this sector? Like when was it initiated as a concept? Is this just part of RMPP, or is it sort of?
there's been discussion groups around for a long time. In fact, the thing that actually got me fired up about consultancy was attending a discussion group when I was still at high school. So that's how long I've been involved with them. So it has been around. It's never really had any license or value. It's something that's been done and people sort of expect it but don't recognise it and haven't valued it. So RMPP have definitely given it value and license, and it's now recognised as something on its own rather than just a consultant running a group.
So that's where it's sort of, because like the YRAPA, they have really strong discussion groups and things like that, don't they? So this is more a rebranding, is it, or?
Oh, well, no, it's an awareness. I think awareness and training. We haven't had the training before like this.
Oh, right.
And but facilitation is still a range of different things for different people. And you know, and facilitating groups, a lot will depend on the culture of a group. I mean, I've sit on the side. The groups in YRAPA, I just don't quite get it. They meet every month, and some of those guys belong to 3 groups, and I don't know how they get any work done on their farm. But I don't get quite that hard out. But yeah, so it is a range of things. But yeah, that's certainly it's recognised now as something of value. So that's been great.
Yeah.
So Meg, any thoughts about the last hour?
I think it's been good to sort of have a think about, and I guess at the stage I'm at, in that we're in new groups, but also I'm recently self-employed as well. So a bit of it's for me is actually thinking about how I want to interact with farmers and how I want to set up my business model going forward around these small groups and using that as a valuable tool for learning.
Cool.
Cool. Thank you. Okay. Ben, did you want to say something, mate?
No, everything's been covered. So yeah, thanks very much, John.
Okay, cool. All right. Thanks, especially Meg and Nance for attending.
Yes.
And I'm pleased you got something out of it. And thanks for your input. Thanks to Denise for organising everything. And I'll just hand back to Denise to do a final wrap up.
Yeah, no worries. I will be collating all the notes, and I'll pass them through you, John, and then I'll send them out to everybody, and then I will send them out to the wider group of facilitators, but I always send them firstly out to the people who came along. So you'll get those early next week. And John, thanks again. Really appreciate the fact that you've been thinking this through and really wanted to kind of toss some ideas around, and we've really appreciated seeing thinking about the questions you've posed and seeing what you're doing with your groups too. So it's good.
Cool. Been a pleasure.
Excellent. Thanks,
okay.
team.
Thanks. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.